Chapter 8. I said, I wish you'd mentioned that your grandmother was Snow White, Jack repeated. Would have been easier than figuring it out on my own. Snow White? May said, her eyes narrowing as she glared at him. Just because I'm in some kind of fantasy world doesn't make me stupid. Nah, Jack said. If anything, you would have been born that way. She punched him for that. Explain what you're talking about, she growled. You're talking about the Snow White? Like, the Wicked Queen at all? Yes. Did she ever talk about the Wicked Queen? Jack said, his eyes going wide. No, because my grandmother isn't a character in a fairy tale. Fairies don't have tails, Jack said, pointing at the fairy in May's hair, whose behind was sticking straight into the air as she snored. Not too observant, are you? He said. May snorted. I'm going to observe me punching you again in a second. Not tails. Tales. Stories. Anyway, Snow White isn't real. She's made up. That's what the Wicked Queen used to say, Jack told her. The Wicked Queen started rumors that Snow White wasn't real. Other people thought Snow White had died. But I guess she was just, well, in punk. Jack smiled. You have no idea how great the news is that Snow White is still alive. Okay, fine, May said. Snow White is real here. You've got fairies, you've got magic books, you probably have cats walking around in boots too. Not anymore, Jack said. If there ever were cats like that, they were hunted down years ago with the rest of the talking animals. That shut the princess up for a second. What, seriously? She said finally. Are you kidding? It's a long story. Anyway, Snow White disappeared back at the end of the Great War. And no one's heard from either her or the Wicked Queen since. But why would you think my grandmother is Snow White? May asked. I mean, her name's Eldora Winterbourne. It don't make some kind of stupid connection between winter and snow. Look at the facts, Jack said. First, your grandmother is the spitting image of Snow White. Pale skin, black hair, beautiful. Right, May said. The fairest one of all. I get it. But you just described like half a bajillion women. Second, Jack continued, ignoring her. Did you hear what she and the huntsman were talking about? They mentioned the Wicked Queen and betrayal of Snow White. And the mirror. Jack shuddered. If the Wicked Queen has her mirror again, we're all dead. Mirror? May asked. It's the Wicked Queen's most powerful magic, Jack said. From what people say, her magic mirror knows everything. And answers any question you ask it, even if what you're asking about hasn't happened yet. That doesn't make sense, May said. How could it know the future? Jack looked at her oddly. I just said it's magic. Oh, okay. Thanks for the explanation, she said. So, my grandmother mentioned something about a mirror and a Wicked Queen. That doesn't make us Snow White. Think about the stories you've heard, Jack said. The Wicked Queen sent her huntsman out to kill Snow White. But Snow White escaped. The huntsman must have been tracking her down this whole time. And when he finally found her, and you, he brought her back to the Wicked Queen. That's not exactly how I remember it, May said, her forehead crinkling. But who knows? My grandmother never let me listen to any of those stories for some reason. Anyway, what was that great wolfin you mentioned? Jack paused, forcing himself not to remember certain bad memories. Basically, the queen of a tiny kingdom invaded all the lands around her, destroying everything she came across. She'd taken over the entire eastern half of the continent before the western kingdoms decided to unite against her. Most people say it was Snow White who actually brought us all together to fight the Wicked Queen, as people started calling her. But it didn't go well. The kingdoms couldn't stand up to the Wicked Queen's armies of goblins, trolls, dragons, pretty much any kind of monster you can imagine. It also didn't help that the Wicked Queen had her magic mirror. It's hard to win a battle when your enemy knows exactly what you're planning. Well, yes, May said. But something happened that the Queen somehow didn't see coming. I guess that's the limit of the mirror. If you don't ask the right question, you're out of luck. One of the Wicked Queen's inner circle of knights, people call them her eyes. One of them betrayed her. This knight supposedly fell in love with Snow White and helped her and a small group of rebels break into the Wicked Queen's castle. You've probably heard of most of them. Rapunzel, Rose Red, who people say was Snow's sister, the Piper and his magical flute, Edward the Cursed Prince, and the Wolf King.